This is a horror game podcast. It is meant for mature audiences. It may contain adult language, violence, and sexual themes, as well as shocking revelations. Viewer discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where tonight my friends and I will be playing the Mothership role-playing game. I'm your host, Thom Raley. The scenario is called The Setting Sun Protocol. It was created procedurally by David Gassaway, who is also our warden, and this is a one-shot. So without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. David?
Thank you, Thom. Friends, you are all among the crew of the jump frigate Bellerophon. You're probably about a third of the crew. You're the Bellerophon. You got a 6-month job for the company. You are basically hopping through space portals to obscure and isolated outposts of the company, delivering supplies, picking up news, making reports on about space stations, way stations, out-of-the-way colonies. The 6 of you are finishing up loading Shuttle C, which is going to leave the Bellerophon, which is a big vessel, and land on the planet Atum, A-T-U-M, where the company has started a seed colony. So that means they've dropped some people and supplies off there, and the people they first lived in a little dome, and then they started excavating, and now they live in an underground complex on this inhospitable planet, and they're going to be terraforming it over time. Part of the equipment that you're delivering today is more material for that. They have greenhouses, they can synthesize some things, but they're always going to need supplies until it's a more hospitable place to live. In addition, Goat and 73 were pulled aside for a briefing in advance of this. Normally, you guys will take supplies down, have a meet and greet, maybe, do the Manifesto of Madness business, get back up and get ready for another jump. But the colony at Atum has been inconsistent in its communications with the company. They have scheduled periodic updates and they missed a few, and also the member of the colony that was assigned to be in contact with the company has stopped and been replaced by somebody else. So you've got an extra remit. You've got, among your manifesto paperwork, you've also got an authorization, since the entire the compound and in fact the planet are the company's property. You can go anywhere, essentially. It's probably not as bad as just before the Revolutionary War. You don't have to you're not allowed to put troops into their houses. You're not allowed to just grab their cattle equivalent, but you're allowed to poke your nose around, and you've got an extra 72 hours before your next jump so that you can give the company a complete rundown on, sometimes these people, it's less than 200 people. They're very isolated, sometimes things get screwy. And you can tell the rest of your team as much about that as you want, but there's no reason to keep it a secret. You're specifically charged with reporting when you get back. And you've got a couple of different members of the science team who can help you with that evaluation, and you've got a little reinforcement as well. Any questions?
So do we know as far as like the colony, do we have like an organizational structure for the colony? Like, is there actually a designated leader, or is it more?
They're because they are employees who are in part being recompensed by shares in the planet when it's profitable. There is a degree of hierarchy, but they're also it's understood with these things, they might elect a mayor or sometimes religious movements grow up in these places, so things will change. There's a fellow named Charlie Freeze, who nominally is the number one company man there. But honestly, you know, valued employees of the company don't get stuck on isolated planets to slowly terraform them. So he's not the CFO of anything. He's just Charlie. Um, and it's a functioning community as well. You'll see it, but as the machinery gradually attempts to change the atmosphere and so on, as water is extracted and released, they've also just got to live their lives because they're going to be there for a while. If there's
So,
nothing else, go
no,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I want clarification. So you said the leader of the colony has been recently replaced, or the
No,
context?
the contact. It was actually an android that was designated A.T. Smith.
Oh, it just
Um,
went offline.
it's
Wouldn't worry about
possible,
it.
yeah, yeah, and communications were resumed. They've just been a little bit sporadic. So it could be a technical problem. Who knows?
Okay.
Dr. Singh here.
And
Is there a particular resource, sorry, or something that we're hoping to extract from the planet in by virtue of colonizing it?
there are all the standard
The
stuff that
usual,
we could
yes.
use more of. It's meant to be an outpost so that they can have a functional mining colony there. And again, any nominally life form less planet that the company can seize is just property they can sell. So once this place is, a bucolic paradise in 120 years, then members of the company can bring their families here to retire on a handsome new lake.
Two questions. I understand you said there was a dome. Now they're underground. Is the
Yeah,
dome abandoned? Is it still in use?
they do go out to the surface occasionally in suits, and the dome is the interface between
Okay.
their underground area and the top. And there's external equipment and machinery, and there's a complex that's like you know generating atmosphere actively. So that's like part
And
of there's like
yeah,
factory units that are both above and below ground.
gotcha. And then my next question was just how inhospitable? I mean, so if you're out in the surface for 1 second, do you instantly die? Is it like Venus or
No, it's like Mars might have been some millions of years ago, where
all
it's
right.
kind of chilly, kind of dry. Um, and actually, in the upper atmosphere of Venus, you can breathe if you were,
Yeah,
in a certain at some
Right.
layers.
that is true.
I d
So this is quite hostile, but not, you could go
Instant death.
outside and pick
yeah.
something up, and
On
maybe you'd want to have some radiation treatment afterwards, if you were just wearing a t-shirt.
on
Okay.
that note, have there been any reports of existing native flora or fauna?
Once in a while you stumble across something that looks like maybe there was microbial life here that didn't quite take, but there's been no announced acknowledgement of something indigenously living here.
Interesting.
Once they're out and about, they might go looking for fossils because, things change. It's only a three-planet system. It's a little bit of an oddball system. There's a gas giant farther out and just a hot rock, and this is the thing in between.
Goat. Uh,
Yeah.
I just secured 5163 5173 seems to be giving me some trouble. The latch isn't closing. It's got to close before they can launch the Bellerophon.
Okay. We could take care of that. It's probably just a faulty,
Some warpage in the metal that's
probably.
it's causing it to catch.
Yeah. We can probably bang it back in place, I'm sure. Good old company equipment.
That's the only problem that we've got right now. Once that's done, then we're secure.
Okay. Well, we'll just go ahead and put people on it.
Yeah, they can load.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good. So you take a mallet to that latch and bang it into place. As Goat said, it's company property. They're never going to replace anything until it falls apart or actually kills somebody. They've got shareholders to think about.
yeah. I think we could strap it with a piece of metal just to make sure it doesn't open.
Yeah. And the trip from the Bellerophon on Shuttle C down to the surface is not it's not a long or complicated journey. You're just going to basically spit out by the Bellerophon and be in a declining orbit for a little bit and then dock. You'll be in radio contact when you get closer to the compound. So off you go. Who's going to pilot the shuttle?
Do we have a pilot?
Nobody put.
I mean,
it's 90% remote control, of course, like these things are. I mean, it's got an autopilot. There's always got to be somebody in that seat.
I think I have heavy machinery that might classify.
I've got jury rigging. I can do that.
I think heavy machinery is probably a better. So we'll let Thom do it. But unless they were to fire on you or something, then this is not a thing that we will even roll. Mothership is a low roll system.
Right.
So, and in this case, there isn't any particular problem. A beacon comes on as you're in approach, and then there's a little radio chatter, and it's like, Bellerophon, you're welcome. There are a few things we've been hankering for, like bananas. So we'll be very glad to see you. And of course, the sooner we get that equipment, the better. Any trouble on your way?
No,
so
we
far.
had a.
Yeah. Human to human, you could talk.
Great. Again, you guys are part way into a 6-month run, and you're going to get a month off, and then you're going to do it again for 6 months, and so the docking procedures are kind of standardized because again, this is an Aegis Corporation vessel, but you all know that there's just a bunch of little pocket companies that are all owned by the same people, little shells. So the docking goes smoothly. And there's some equipment that helps because you've got, among other things, like, cargo ship sized objects.
Right.
And so that's the beginning of that is largely automated. And then there's like, you enter from the surface and go down a tunnel, and there's a little group of colonists saying, "Hello, it's exciting to see fresh faces. Welcome
Greetings.
to Atum."
Hello.
Thank you.
Can we get you anything? Do you want or do we want to do all the protocol first, or do you want what's on your agenda?
My preference is business first, pleasantry second. We'll get the job done, and then we can chat.
Great. Okay.
If you're okay.
Yeah. I'm Simon. This is Madeline. We do warehouse work largely, and we've both got independent copies of a manifest, so we can just get cracking.
Great.
Everything should be there. 5173 we had the jury rig it closed. It's got a damaged hatch.
Yeah.
Right. Noted. Good.
There should be 70 tons of treated kale for you.
Excellent.
Minor.
Yeah, our fabricator makes a pretty good banana porridge paste stuff, but it's nice to, and then the peels go into the composting and we get a little more yield next season, so it's all welcome. Um, so this is all, you've basically just been inside metal rooms for this first part of your journey,
Mhm.
like no windows, no anything. Um, Doing the paperwork, finger signing the stuff makes maybe an hour, 90 minutes. Of course, there's some things missing that they had on order, and some of those things you'll find back on the Blairophone in somebody else's box, and some of them somewhere somebody hit a little red X and said, no, you don't get that this time. But, it's nothing that causes any interpersonal stress. And the colonists seem friendly, if willing to see you go. They're not, nobody's saying, come visit our town or anything. They're happy to sort of wrap it up.
Yeah, I will I'll talk to, I guess, Simon or Madeline, since we're talking to them first. I'll be just like, yeah, sorry to bother you about this, but we've got some extra orders for you. We've been asked by the company to investigate some of your communication equipment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know whether it was, well, we'll come and I'll show you to the communications guy. We had some kind of interference with Ethernet. We just couldn't get anything in or out, off and on. But yeah.
Yeah. But they figured since we were here, we might as well check it out. And if we can fix it, we will.
We're class 9 certified, so we can take care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And he looks around at you and he looks at Madeline and then he looks at Charlie. Do you have any visible armaments?
Yeah, I'm carrying a rifle. I'm wearing battle armor. I'm prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, when Charlie hears about extra stuff, he leans over to Dr. Singh and says, "Did you know anything about this? I mean, I didn't sign up for any extra work."
Wouldn't be a shame if they sent us somewhere with actual fresh air at some point, but let's make it quick and we'll be out of here before we know it.
Yeah, but this extra work I'm not sure it's in our contracts.
You know what? We'll nod and smile and we'll get through it before you know it. I'm curious to see what they have for med labs and facilities here, but eventually they want to branch out, do their own thing. They're not incredibly excited to see us, I'm sure, but they're just as interested in seeing this go smoothly as we are.
Yeah, well, I hope it don't take too long. I got my my football game waiting to watch back on the ship.
Yeah, so Simon and Madeline have exchanged a look and they kind of looked searchingly at Goat and then they sort of noted that Charlie's loaded for Bear and they were like, yeah, come on into town and I'll introduce you to the radio guy. And so there's a couple of hatches and then a sort of more comfortable hallway that leads that has there's a small section that's metal and then it becomes rock that's been bored out and it slopes down maybe 20 meters over 100 and to a large brightly lit open space and it's surprisingly comfortable. It looks like, so there's a couple of football fields worth, I guess, of large, roughly oval-shaped communal open space with very high ceilings. And it looks like the roof is quartz or something. It doesn't look like a plastic. It looks like they've managed to build a crystal that goes across so that there's natural light coming down, and there are a number of standing containers that have shrubs and even small trees in them, and other little hedges and things. And then there's basically future-y Quonset hut kind of structures, a few dozen of them scattered around, and a couple of larger ones. And then there's various large doored areas there are large doors that are around the base of the central chamber, where there are probably science done some and greenhouses done some and so on. The air is nice, it's bright. When you come into the space, some of the citizens who are walking in pairs and whatever sort of stop in their tracks and look at you all. Again, they don't get a lot of visitors.
Is there anything I can notice from their general complexion or just a gauge of the overall health of the community, looking at general weights and just, are they eating right? Are they getting the nutrients they need?
It's a pretty varied community in terms of age and ethnicity. They're kind of drably dressed, like obviously they are printing or getting shipments of just sort of overalls because it's a low priority fashion among, colonists in a barren place. The oldest people you see are in their maybe late 50s, early 60s. And the youngest people who are out and about are in their 20s, maybe mid to late 20s.
So no kids.
Would part of our remit
kids.
be to look at medical records and such and have them submit? I assume the company would have them do annual physicals pretty regularly that we'd review.
I think that would be Goat's call. What the company's mission statement was broad. Don't shoot anybody for no good reason, but you give us an explanation of what's happening here, and disregard the employees that are there. So yeah.
Oh.
And actually, people sort of, the colonists resume relative normalcy after a moment, and it's a bit of a walk because you're actually going across town and into one of those other large doors, because the telecommunications array, of course, is attached to the dome. There's no reason to try to communicate through the roof or through rock.
Sure.
And at some point, Madeline's going to say, nice to meet you all. Have a good trip home, and peel off. And Simon takes you through one of those doors, and again, there's a gangway, and there are two sort of booths in this communications tower where there's currently one guy with his feet up, looking at a screen, and he sort of starts when he hears the clump of multiple feet. And he looks over at Simon, and Simon's like, yeah, this is the supply ship guys. The company's got a bug up its ass about the report schedule. And Roger's like, oh yes, right. Well, it was, it could have happened to anybody. A.T. Smith was trying to do some external welding, and he just lasered himself in half. And yeah, so then we didn't have a radio operator and had to dig up the manual, and so.
Is at least one half of him okay, or no?
Yeah, no.
Oh, all right.
Whatever the circuit, whatever thing, and he looks over at Iris and 73. He's like, whatever you. I mean, I didn't look closely at what was inside him, but he wasn't gonna. I couldn't just flip the off switch, if you know what I mean.
I do.
So, we repurposed that material in the fabricator. So anyway, everything should be fine now. Are we all good?
Well, we'll do a quick diagnostic.
Uh-huh.
We want to make sure your equipment's up to standards so that you don't have any trouble in the future.
Yeah, and we'd also like to kind of review your protocols on this kind of thing because, like I said, the company's a little bit upset that you haven't been doing regular check-ins with them.
If
Yeah.
you
Was this
follow the
loss of
maintenance
company
schedule,
property reported?
I'll have to check the log on that. It's a lot, there's that whole checklist where we're going to say, we checked the reading of this and it's this number and, all that stuff. And their acquisitions guy comes in and makes other notes. It's just, and also it's a loss to our community. I mean, A.T. Smith was a regular guy and, it was a darn shame that he slipped like that. And so,
accidents happen.
yeah. And he, he gives Simon a look and it's like, all right, well, there's the screen, there's the paperwork, there's the radio, there's the other radio. Just have at it. I'll come back and take position again in 20 minutes. Will that be good?
That should do it.
Yeah.
And he
Go. Do you want to keep this guy here just in case there's some unusual mischief?
I don't think there's going to be any unusual mischief. I think they're good to go. Although, I think like if the scientists here want to kind of check out some of the other equipment as well, maybe some of like the hydroponics equipment, perhaps life support, anything that because if there's a problem with the communication, there might be problems with other parts of the equipment. We're here. We might as well provide a thorough report to the company.
yeah.
All right. Charlie takes his hand off the radio operator's chest and says, "You can go." Goat says it's okay.
I'll sit down at the console and start running the diagnostics.
Yeah. So Simon and Roger take off. Unless you want to sort of catch one up and follow up on Goat's suggestion. They want to check in.
Oh, I'm not going to stay here, so I
Yeah,
will take Goat's suggestion and go look at the greenhouse, the hydroponics, and the eclipse.
Dr. Singh will join them.
Yeah, once they kind of like get out, I'm gonna kind of turn to the group and go, my bullshit meter is like on red right now.
The probability of welding oneself in half is quite astronomical.
Yeah, I think something's going on here.
They are
I don't
rather
like it.
invasive.
Yeah, so realistically, I'd like you guys be nosy. Be nosy.
I
At the
agree.
very least, colony records and biometrics for each colonist should be available to the company as employees and vested families of employees. So that should be no problem for us to attain.
Yeah.
I would suggest also that you don't treat anybody as directly hostile. For all we know, these are just, personal opinion about to be expressed. Country bumpkins that barely know how to. This place is filthy.
Well, it's literally a hole in the ground.
Yeah, but this equipment should be maintained better. I
Yeah,
don't
so-
know that they know. Their explanation for him cutting himself in half may just be that they didn't understand what the hell was going on.
Oh, that's true. I'm gonna go
True.
talking to them under the pretense that I don't know, that I have to the company needs to register everyone's current morale. But really, what I'm looking for is signs of drug use and also just taking a register of religious paraphernalia or beliefs, especially if there's a Xeno influence to them.
Yeah.
Likewise, I'm interested in a similar vein, but more towards diseases or overall health of the community. Medical records are something I'm keenly interested in, as well as we can see just how often accidents are occurring.
And maybe Charlie, you can keep your eyes open for any potential hostile actions by these folks. Not saying they will do anything, but let's be careful.
You want me to go with the scientists, or stick here with you, or wander on my own?
I'd go with the scientists, protect them.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Yes,
My
sir.
ADHD circuit just kicked in, and I need to clean this whole room while the diagnostic is running. Get out my feather duster.
I can only imagine what we'll find in the medical facilities.
Doctors, Iris, after you.
All right. Let's go talk to these colonists.
Very good. So while Goat and 73 investigate the communications tower, the rest of you go back down into the village proper. You could have catch up with Simon and Roger on the way, and they weren't in a huddle, but they were communicating somewhat urgently. And as you come down the gangway toward them, Roger's going to I understand you guys are company employees. Hell, everybody's a company employee, and they probably gave you a hard time about something, but we're just a small community that's really isolated. We're not used to having strangers around, let alone, I don't know, like nosy Parkers, like who want to investigate. Like, what is that about? Do you have the authority to do this?
I assure you, we're only here to see to your best interests in the health and productivity of the colony. As far as authority goes, I would prefer we stayed away from looking at that side of it. We are committed by the company to this cause, but and it would not do for that to come back on a report.
Yeah, and Simon's sort of
Pardon me.
Simon noticed that cough. He puts a hand on Roger's arm and is like, the sooner they look around and get satisfied, the sooner things can go back to normal. So it's just, let's go. I can direct you. Hydroponics is 7, that hatch over there. Administration is 5, which is, I guess, you said something about medical records?
Yes, medical or any type of laboratory.
Well, yeah, and there's also Dr. D's lab, but none of us ever go there. That's a science thing. I don't even know.
Well, then perhaps someone who can speak to us on our level, then that would be wonderful. You don't have a overall head count of colonists?
I think we're at, people have different opinions about this sort of thing, but we're in practically a closed system here. So we don't have a boot hill. So I don't keep a daily, note of how many people are still with us. We've had some losses, we've had some births, but I think we're about 170, maybe.
170, very well.
I am just giving Dr. Singh a subtle sidelong glance, because you don't know how many people there are.
And there are different systems of counting. Very curious. And Dr. Singh does his infuriating writing on his clipboard that he just keeps doing as...
Yeah. Okay. I guess, Roger's going to go retake the communications tower in 20 minutes. So maybe I'll meet you guys back by the departure area in a half an hour.
Yes, very well. I had one last thing. The directions to that Dr. D you mentioned. It wouldn't hurt for me to make a quick contact at least.
Dr. D doesn't see anybody.
What does he do then?
I assure you, he will see us.
The company gave him some special lab work. He came later after the founding. He's he doesn't see anybody.
Pardon me.
Does this guy seem real nervous?
He seems like he is not saying more than he is saying. He would like to simplify things because they're complicated.
Uh-huh.
And he just wants you out of here. He doesn't seem like he murdered Dr. D and he's hiding that fact.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that he's said anything that isn't true. This being Simon, who's the friend, the good cop of the two of them.
Yeah. Just lying by omission.
Oh.
I get it.
Thank you, Simon. We will do our best to show ourselves around. Where to? Should we head to the hydroponics first?
Sure. Let's make sure they're watered enough.
Well, ideally, we'll see a variety of species that can entail the proper survival long-term of the colony's interests.
Right on.
Are you with us, Iris?
Yes, I'm a
Okay.
botanist, so I'm headed to the greenhouses.
Again, it's who knows how these people occupy their time, not unlike you in between jumps where you're just like, there's some stuff to count and somebody's got to make food and whatever, but there's a lot of, they're not actively out there with hose terraforming. They've got big machines grinding through the ground.
Sure.
So, people again in small groups, pairs and singly, are walking between these various buildings. And anytime you see a new face, they stop and speak quietly. But for people who could probably use more variety in their life, they do not seem excited to see someone fresh face.
Iris, are you able to access company files remotely?
A limited amount of company files that I have access to, yes.
Would you be willing to do a quick search for any type of anything along the lines of this Dr. D? I'd like to see if we could find up some kind of roster report or personnel file on this individual. By the sounds of it, they were assigned here after the founding.
Checking.
Let's see. Do you have hacking?
I do not, just computers.
All right. Just take that 10-point bonus then.
And is this an intellect roll?
Yeah.
Okay. That is a 37 under 60.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, you've shipped things around, but you do have like a company, like a larger company tree that you have access to. Dr. Cass D, it's DEE. It's not an acronym. It has a biomedical background and draws a decent salary in R&D. There is no indication of what project he'd be working on, or you can probably get a date of when he was sent here, and it was several years ago. This colony is 20 years old.
Is he typically staged at outposts, or is this kind of a new thing for him?
This was an outlier.
Okay.
Yeah, he's usually been at a larger research facility instead of in the boonies. Yeah.
Interesting. Of course, I'll relay that to Dr. Singh.
Interesting. Dr. Teff, I know you're interested in gauging the spiritual and theological aspects of the colony. Where do you think is the best way to ascertain that information? I must admit, I'm becoming concerned that we should stick together and not stretch poor Charlie out too far. Dr. Teff.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I
no.
was just distracted by the fact that they don't know how many people are here.
It is quite peculiar, isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat your question, please.
I was just going to say, where is the best course of action for you to complete your duties in regards to their faith and theological?
Oh, just keeping my eyes open. Usually, especially given that it's just as I put a hole in the ground, I don't think we're gonna find a door where there's a gigantic cathedral somewhere. Just it's the subtle things. Is when you're talking to someone, are they hiding an icon underneath their shirt? When they go to take a drink of water, do they hold the glass always with two fingers, their whole hand? It's the subtle gestures that define beliefs. So just interacting and observing.
Well, I think we should stick together for the time being. Perhaps we'll visit hydroponics first and move to their medical facilities from there. Uh, like I said, I don't want to stretch Charlie out too far, but we should get back to Goat at some point and report what
For
we've
sure.
seen.
But
So
we gotta also talk to the doctor that doesn't see anybody.
I must
I guess
admit
we'll have
that
to make an appointment.
we'll see if he
Gordon,
takes
did you tell me
drop-ins.
what Dr. D's specialization was?
Uh, it,
Biomedical.
biotech,
Yeah.
Biotech. You did say, yeah.
biotech.
Okay.
Biomedical and R&D.
Got it.
Meanwhile, back in communications, it's not that filthy, but it is disordered. I think generally speaking, all of you who are being observant interpersonally, there's a morale problem for sure. It's not that surprising. This is not the first stop you've had in the past few months where people were in a mining colony and they were using a lot of stimulants, for example. But it's something screwy. So 73, in terms of cleaning up, there's just the kind of disorder that builds up when people are just barely going through the motions.
Right.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with their equipment, and the Ethernet communicating. I mean, everything is to some degree smart, and there's no indication that it was malfunctional or occluded by something at any point. There's no error log that says they tried to transmit on the 15th and couldn't. So again, you're not getting consistent.
So I'll sort of follow that backwards and say, Goat, there is no indication whatsoever that there was any malfunction.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, actually. I had a feeling the equipment was perfectly fine. This is probably a dereliction of duty more than anything.
But then it would indicate that I forget his name, Smith, A.T. Smith.
Oh, Smith.
That A.T. Smith was not, in fact, preparing anything when he was damaged.
No, I mean, how do you cut yourself in half? Like, how do you do that? You can't do that.
Well, I mean, I can accept that there are weird accidents that do occur, but there is no indication that anybody was working on anything. Now we're looking at not only covering up an incident, but possibly something far more sinister. Murder?
It looks like it. I mean, why else? Because they didn't report him dead. That's a red flag. He died by mysterious means. That's another red flag.
I mean, unless he had the welder in his hand and he was tossing it up and down like some joker and cut himself in half. I think there's something highly suspicious here.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Should we investigate him personally and see how people they're going to lie. Humans lie. Uh, do people keep personal logs in the computer?
Not in the communications bay. That's a functional outpost.
Right. But maybe in their quarters, I'd have to hack into their personal information, which is probably illegal. Should I do it?
That's actually a good question. Like, as far as like communication logs, would we be able to like
find out if somebody hated him and wanted him dead?
Yeah, or are there like security tapes, video? Kind of grasping at straws a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't imagine
that they've been erased.
Yeah.
Well, and also like the company might shell out for security cameras that are watching valuable stuff, but just a place where people who work there have a boring job, I'm not sure that anybody would bother to surveil.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah.
So
Wild
you guys,
Western arm. Yeah.
You're satisfied about the communications area after 10 minutes. So if you want to make your way somewhere else, you can. As for the other, we'll do hydroponics quickly. There's a couple of workers there. They, like, the first person who sees you drops something. She's so startled. And then, and then does a double take when she sees Charlie. And then people kind of just, stand and watch you. But, there's a pretty big facility. It's a smaller area that's got a quartz ceiling, but also banks of lights. Some of the growing material is under plastic sheets. Some of it's not. It smells green. There's some natural rock, and there's also concrete. It looks like a lot of the planters were printed out of concrete. Obviously there's some water reclamation happening somewhere and there's pipes all over the place. There's 2 rooms like this. They seem to be in good working order.
Quick
Iris,
question.
do you see anything besides spinach and arugula here?
Nothing I would think out of the ordinary, Dr. Teff. I'm assuming, Warden, that is the case.
Yes, you do a reasonable, like an organized
Catalog of what they
scan
were doing,
to see whether there's like, a little Audrey 2 somewhere, or if they've got mushroom trays beneath. Everything here seems like the kind of, there's a lot of cassava. There's like this is maximum output from minimal input. With a little bit of arugula, so they don't just go mad.
It's actually kind of disturbing that there's no recreational plants in here.
Charlie leans over and picks
me?
up that woman's tool and hands it back to her and says, "Here you go, ma'am. Nice looking plants."
Thanks. Is there something wrong? Why are you guys here?
You gotta ask the eggheads, ma'am. I'm just a grunt.
Yeah.
Corporate just sends us to do audit. How's your mood?
Well, I'm startled.
I'll put that in the report. There we go. See? That's why they sent me hundreds of light years here.
Are you going to be here long?
No. We got a long list of places to hit up, so.
Should we not be here long?
Oh, there's not a lot to do. There's not a lot to do. We do play space bingo. They have some game that they play communally that you've heard of. That's,
My mama loves space bingo.
And Charlie, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they had a reasonable quantity of THC-bearing flowers, just not a preponderance of them.
Okay.
And all synthetic in the future. Can I communicate with Iris?
Sure.
Since we're both machines,
Yeah, you guys are
in internal communication.
Open. You can both close your Bluetooth, but you have the option. You can ping her, and if she answers,
Iris, can you hear me?
Yes, 73. What is it?
We have reason to believe that A.T. Smith was terminated. He was not in an accident. There's no accident logs. There's no damage to their system. Their system is in good working order. Unless there was some freak accident, which they're lying about, somebody terminated him for some reason. We're continuing the investigation. Just thought you should know.
Curious. Destruction of company property violates rule Foxtrot 67-1 Alpha. Hefty fine, too, especially if he was a newer model.
I'm not sure that he was, but definitely he may have discovered something. Everybody seems to be acting quite suspiciously.
on that note, Iris, because of that communication, and Doctors Singh and Teth, because you've been actively trying to suss the community here, not only have you not seen any children, you haven't seen any androids. There's no way that the company would send out a starter colony that was only hominids. It just doesn't make any sense. There's so many jobs they can't do. So maybe they're all working in the engine room downstairs. Maybe there's something about this planet that is inconducive. Although, Iris 73, you haven't felt any strange waves or anything. Not that we always feel things that can hurt us.
He's noticed. Have I noticed? Well, I've only been in this room, so I really haven't looked around to notice.
Yeah, the first pass through town, that probably didn't leap out at you unless you are always looking for robots to give the high sign to.
Basically the robots did like a ping. They'd be like, "Hey, robots, anyone else out here?"
We have our private lives, so we don't like to read each other's thoughts.
If Charlie is still near the worker, perhaps I will approach her and I'll say, "Sorry, miss, as you're here, perhaps I'll ask you a few direct questions. I'm curious as when the last time you have gone to the doctor for a physical."
Oh, well, who are you?
Dr. Singh, one of the crew here, just ensuring that the medical needs of the community, of the colony, are maintained. Could you open your mouth, please?
Oh, come on.
Okay, I'll pull out a little pen light and look at her teeth go over. And this really doesn't mean he's kind of just pushing to see if he can trip her up maybe a little bit and then say, "Very well, feeling healthy?"
Yes, we all visit the clinic fairly often. Again, we have rigid schedules. There's only so much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any good gossip?
She doesn't like that. She doesn't like that question.
No. Who's dating who?
I think, in a community of this size, it's important to respect your neighbor's privacy.
Well, that's interesting. What is the size?
Around 165, 170.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Any chance it's going to become 171?
She closes her mouth. She looks at Charlie. She walks decisively into the other hydroponic room.
I think she likes me.
You may have hit a nerve, Dr. Teth.
Well, that's why they call me a ladies' man, because they remember me.
We were no children and no androids. They claimed children, though.
Indeed.
Simon said there have been some births, there have been some deaths.
I think it's
Perhaps
more
the children
vital.
are in school. It is about that time, but it's strange.
I think we should get a full list of all colonists, and again, I'm curious with those medical reports. They'll have ages. If for all we know, they have some disease wiping out their young, and they're too ashamed of it or something like that to tell us about it.
I'll ping 73 and just relay that. No androids that we've seen and no children. Maybe check the colony records if you can access them.
That'll be an administration.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask 73. I think we're done here. Do you want to head over to admin and see if we can find any more
Indeed.
information?
Yes. Yeah. I'm concerned if what Iris says is true. I wonder if there's some hostility towards androids.
Could be.
Should I be armed? I'm not. I've got a torch, but that's all.
Yeah, I've got a nail gun with me, so I'm armed.
All right. Well, let's keep our eyes open for people with sledgehammers.
Yeah.
So you guys head down out of the channel that leads to communications. You weren't told where the administration area is, and obviously at a place like this, they don't need a lot of signage.
It probably says in the computer though where to go. Can't we?
I mean, I don't think the communication system is necessarily connected to like the village database. I think it's kind of its own thing. I mean, you can just ask somebody.
We'll ask. Yes, we will.
Get directions.
So these people have left their colony with just the gray or whatever color concrete. They've not used any paints or decorations or anything to, like the greenhouse is this way or hydroponics is this way, and there's a green arrow. Is it all just
not big enough?
The lack of color and decoration?
It's not because they have all the planters and the natural light coming through, it's not sterile feeling.
Okay.
It's true that a lot of things are gray because metal. I mean, but if you imagine all these Quonset huts painted brightly, it would be a little painful too.
Okay.
So they're like the Quonset huts tend to be like a slate gray, which is probably good for absorbing the light that comes through the quartz in the day. There are gravel paths, and there's plantings that the town square is, aesthetically okay. It's not, it's not a grim-looking space. But
it's not grim or sterile in that sense.
No, but it's not a hospital where they have colored stripes on their floor because nobody has to learn how to go anywhere because they're all in the same place as it gradually grows over, a lifetime potentially.
Or, a young person who doesn't know yet because they're a kid.
Well, why is the kid going to the administration offices?
Yeah.
On a more grim note, quick question about just the nature of the company's colonies in general. Is there a typical protocol regarding burial after death or cremation?
That's, I think, what Simon was getting at or Roger, when he was like, there's different ways people do things. The implication there, and these seed colonies, like there's an experimental component to them, right? Because every geothermal area is going to have its own eccentricities. Every group of people is going to develop protocols over time, even within what the company sets. So I think the implication that he was making was that they compost their dead and that they feed an android into the wood chipper that goes back into the fabrication machine, because that way they don't have to get new material. Those plastics and metals are just going to be reused. That's why there's no boot hill, because they don't waste anything.
It makes me curious to see if they have a functioning morgue on site or something where they keep the dead until they are composted. Is anyone, if are we finished in hydroponics? Perhaps we could move on to medical if
I think we should.
everyone's satisfied.
Well, let's sync you guys up because the
Okay.
outside crew already knows where admin is, and so
Okay.
Goat and
Got
73 can wave to you across the little courtyard, and you can go down the. They did put numbers above the big hatches at least, so there is a way to direct you. So again, when you leave the main chamber, things get a little more cramped, and you'd lose natural light. There's a suite of little offices down the hatch number 5. You'll be able to figure out where the little administration office is, where executive decisions are made and certain kinds of records are kept. There's probably a room for the science logs. There's a room that has personnel records, that sort of stuff. Everything, more or less, everything does have to get recorded for once every few years, somebody from the company does bother to come down here, and do and look around a little bit just to make sure. Although it might have been a few years, might have been a few.
Goat, we're seeing some of the same things we experienced before. There seems to be a continued desire for us to leave as quick as possible. And I don't know if we were to delay and stick around, if there's something that's actually scheduled to happen that's going to come about that we're going to be then witness to because we didn't leave, or if they just are anxious to see our backsides.
I don't know at this point. But I don't like their behavior. They're hiding something.
Or
they told us some bullshit story about the communications tower breaking down. It didn't. This android had a suspicious. Yeah, A.T. Smith had a suspicious death.
Something strange about this Dr. D as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So there must be some kind of connection between Dr. D and whatever the hell's going on around here.
Well, in any kind of alien world, the possibility for microscopic germs or viruses or whatever, like this doctor, from if what they're saying is true, he has essentially completely blocked himself off from them, and he should have a trusted leadership role in their community to maintain the health of the community. There's a lot of things that are not matching up here.
Yeah.
If we believe Dr. D to be responsible for any of the odd and abnormal behaviors, looking at the colony records before he arrived and then after he arrived may shed some light on
True.
malfeasance on his part.
Yeah, because
Agreed.
there should be basic records. How many kids were born? How many people died? I mean, there should be just basic records, just really general stuff that is kind of mundane, but is important to keep just for the sake of keeping it.
With all respect to our inorganic friends, if nothing else, there would be asset reports on every android that would have been sent here to help with it. If AT was the last of those that finally perished in whatever maleficent accident happened, then we may find a long record of other similar decommissionings happening.
Well, we don't know yet whether they're actually missing or whether they're being utilized somewhere else. Are there any occupations on this colony that are too hazardous for humans that robots would be used for? Radiation areas or
Highly possible.
It's again based on your general knowledge of having visited all kinds of stations and colonies, orbital and land. A lot of facilities, use fission or fusion to power things.
Sure.
And it's very common to have synthetic people manning those for the most part because you're less likely to get broke. and less likely to make, a standard deviation human error. So it's possible they're all in the power station.
Hmm.
But it's also the case that while the company considers androids to be its private property, it's long recognized that they require downtime and other sort of workers' rights in order to function properly. So even if their job was to man the reactor, you'd expect to see them in town.
That's true.
It's just, and even if school is happening right now, you'd expect to see preschool age kids with
Right.
parents.
I have a heightened awareness of possible danger for both Iris and myself, Charlie. I don't know if Iris carries a weapon. I do not.
I do not.
I am armed in addition to, of course, Charlie here. I have a tranquilizer gun.
Well, I think if we're
Torch.
worried about danger, we should probably get a move on, right, Goat? Let's get to where we're going and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah?
My poor 20th century brain is like, so there's a room full of filing cabinets. Filing cabinets? They're not shipping paper here so that they can keep solid copies of anything. So the administration rooms, they have personnel files for everyone here. The authorization that 73 and Goat were given probably has a company override code. If the colonists put any protections on these machines, they're not going to interfere with you looking at them, and you can do so simultaneously. There's more than one unit to deal with. There are no current personnel records for synthetic persons. There were 24 when the colony was founded. So A.T. Smith had 23 brothers and sisters.
Is a large number of androids to cease
That
functioning.
represents $355,000 million.
Androids are durable.
Credits.
I think we can look past the idea that this
to
is
those who would dehumanize us, it's a waste of resources.
I had considered the fact that it could be
Energy,
some form
power.
of segregated society, but yeah, this seems like wanton intention.
How many colonists?
There were initially 240 colonists, along with the 24 androids. I'm sorry, including the 24 androids. There have been a couple of people. There were a couple of people who actually left, and there have been a couple of arrivals other than Dr. D, but only a few. Basically, this was a planned community, and
that's with or without the androids?
That's 240, including the androids. And, so it's been more than 20 years. So some death is not surprising.
Yeah, we're still short a large number of people, though.
Yeah, and we were told up and down, and we're hearing only down. What we're seeing is population going down, not up.
Yeah.
By the broad strokes.
Yeah. And in fact, you do a search for deaths, and you see, there was a handful in the first 6 months. There was probably a breach or an industrial accident or something, and it's probably noted, and it doesn't. And again, this comports with things you've seen elsewhere. You drop a bunch of machinery and people on an alien place, and like sometime in the first 6 months, somebody drops something or leaves the door open or it's just, there are too many variables to not have some early losses in a colony.
Sure.
Since then, the recorded deaths, which are only of hominids, there are no end dates for any of those androids. They're just listed inactive or something, and there's not a date given. Again, you could have a company override that lets you look at the system, but you can't make the system have done things that it didn't do.
Could
People
an
didn't.
yeah. Can an android survive outside
An Android could survive outside here for a while.
for a while?
Yeah.
Not
An Android,
indefinitely.
We don't breathe, or
No, I know you
Yeah.
don't breathe, but there's radiation, and
Yeah,
there'd
eventually
be
the
the
radiation
temperature.
wears down your hardware.
yeah, the day would be hot, the night would be cold. You're relatively unshielded from radiation. It
but
wouldn't
it
be.
would probably take years for us to break down completely.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, there's not a lot of atmospheric protection because there is an atmosphere, but it doesn't have.
Right.
It's not a developed
Not
atmosphere.
ideal.
Yeah.
I'm afraid
I have a
Go ahead.
I have a tactical ploy based on certain data I have in my brain from old human entertainments. What if, since neither Iris nor I usually partake in meals with the others, if you are here for a meal, one of you could pretend to not like synthetics and see if the colonists approach you with like-mindedness.
Could be a humans first type movement here we're not seeing.
Nah, goat. We're not going to stick around that long, are we?
Well, I was hoping not to. Actually, I was
Maybe we
hoping to
don't.
get on our way.
Let's check this place out. Maybe they just got the androids like working some other place and we just haven't seen them yet.
That's
My gut-
possible.
My
Goat,
gut tells me
Goat, should we explain to them the additional protocol we were given?
Yeah, we can definitely tell them that. I don't.
We were given protocol by the company to investigate the odd things going on here. They didn't tell us what they were, but they told us there were some odd things going on. So I think we do need to investigate.
I have a clarification question about the colonists in general.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any records of children being born in the past 20 years?
Yes.
Okay.
uh-oh.
There are dates of birth for 16 kids in the last 10 years. It's not a bad rate for a community of this size and with a fair number of people who are above the common age even now.
Now,
You said
what about
the youngest people here are about 20.
That we've observed, which means the
Yes.
children are being
elsewhere?
sequestered away somewhere.
There's
With the androids.
Yeah. There's no report on their health or any sickness, or the kids are listed as alive, I take it.
There are no so if you compare let's say you look up Roger, the new radio operator, to get a sense of the baseline, right? He's got a long last name that probably was Polish several generations ago. It begins with a P. It lists some vaccinations, both to qualify for the position here and updates since he's been here, because you people come and potentially bring human pathogens. So they just keep, the company has a roster. It lists a spouse, if any, in the personal protocol, and it lists children, if any. And it lists deaths, if any, for all of the human colonists. For children, there's a date of birth and no other information.
Okay.
Do the current date of births seem to line up with the age that they appear to be? Like, are the 20-year-olds have a 20-year-old date of birth, or has there been accelerated growth?
Well, you don't have names for any of the young adults you've seen outside, but there are people who are of that age. There are appropriate people of those ages.
Okay.
There's, And, just because you haven't seen anybody over 60-ish doesn't mean that there aren't some people,
But no 10-year-olds.
No.
you haven't seen any 10-year-olds. There are 10-year-olds in the database. There are people who were born 10
I
years.
was just suggesting that what if the 10-year-olds actually look like 20-year-olds? I don't know. We wouldn't be able to.
While I would like to hold out hope that these children are still alive, the fact that we've already seen that there is no decommissioning date for the androids can likely just as well mean that any of the kids who've been lost, they haven't updated their paperwork as well.
Would it be fair to assume that these kinds of things might flag something in the system, like large amounts of deaths, or maybe the company just doesn't care? I guess it's my questioning is like maybe
Yeah.
they're trying to evade being flagged.
They're certainly evasive.
Your knowledge of company protocol, and again, the range of these sorts of places you've seen, the company does not weigh human or even
Right.
android life very heavily. And people do try to hide problems, just like everywhere else in the universe. But usually not if they're in danger themselves. So there's like there's a tipping point sort of thing. People want help.
Mhm.
They're not always forthcoming about what little slip ups they've had. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so.
Do you have any other records questions?
No, but are there people around?
There wasn't anybody currently working in administration. It's probably not something they have to staff daily. There's probably an automated work roster that you could access. And they probably have duties 24 hours, although mostly since they do have functional daylight, they probably mostly stick to a diurnal schedule.
Iris, did you want to go ahead?
Remind me how long Dr. D has been here?
I wish I had written that down.
Sorry.
I think you had said earlier he came a few years or a few
years
weeks.
ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
after no,
Yeah,
after
maybe it wasn't a
after the
concrete
initial.
number.
I think let's say the colony 20 and him 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, one last thing I'd look at is last recorded death of a colonist, of a human colonist. What was cause of death?
The last colonist that died was only about 6 months ago, and it was multiple melanomas. There's a treatment record. You could access the medical records here, but there's actually one of the larger Quonset huts is the clinic.
Okay.
You can sort of figure that out from looking at stuff, but this isn't where.
For that treatment really has me interested, actually. Could I see if there is a physician listed?
Yeah, it's not Dr. D.
Okay, just a regular colony
Yeah,
doctor.
there's another. Yeah, they maintain a small staff that's medically. They're actually mostly like before they came here, they were physician assistants. The clinic has a couple of medibots in it. Some of the stuff that you brought is probably to replenish that because those things are harder to synthesize.
Yeah.
Or the company doesn't want to give people a machine that can print out every drug that they sell. So they have to requisition certain kinds of treatment materials.
I think I'm satisfied for my role within the company if I could kind of either download or create some kind of copy of these records for submission and maybe later review. I would love to.
You can ask either 73 or Iris to make a pocket file that picks up all of this data. It's not a lot of data comparatively to what it takes them to dream.
Beyond the overall mysteries, I think my general concerns are covered now. Where else would we stop? I do think we should make a point to try to understand this Dr. D situation, but does anyone have any other? Dr. Teff, did you have further?
No, I want to go to Dr. D. I mean, there's also the notion of going to the engine room or the industrial floors, but Dr. D seems much more
intriguing at this point.
I was thinking about going to the engineering rooms or the power station just to check. However, what I really would like to do at the moment is just go up to some random person and
See how they react to you.
where are all the synthetics?
Shake them.
Might as well Dr. Spock this whole thing.
So you're satisfied with the administration wing as a group?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, there's the little warren rooms. There's the sort of gangway through stone. When you come out into the village proper, there are about 30 villagers who were standing in a rough semicircle around that area, and none of them are evidently armed. There's no pitchforks here, or nobody got into the industrial mecha equipment to do, but they look frustrated and confrontational.
With us?
Well,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
let me, it's safest if I do this because I can take the damage if something happens. I'm going to walk up to, let's see. I think the percentages go through my mind as who would be most effective to speak to, a man or a woman, big guy, little guy, somebody who looks intelligent. I'll walk up to them and I'll say, we have a question. Where are your synthetics?
The person you approached, what do you choose? Big, little, smart looking?
Well, somebody who looked
Male?
intelligent, in charge, yeah. Male, probably.
Hmm.
But it could be a female. I don't.
So you go up to, I guess a village elder type,
Okay, yeah.
right? I mean, some people have lived more of their lives here than others and more of their lives elsewhere than others. So
The one who the others sort of keep looking at.
well, actually, the arc that's around has kind of a linchpin up a keystone, right?
Yeah.
And you haven't talked to him before. But it's Charlie Freeze, who you were told was a company employee who was part of the lead, and you know that because there were photographs and all the files you were just pouring through.
Yeah.
You probably know everybody's name now, actually, just because why wouldn't you record that? As long as their appearance hasn't changed too radically. So
Good afternoon, Mr. Freeze. Yes.
I feel like we've extended you hospitality and patience. We live a private life here. We chose to come out here and live a kind of private life. And, it's unfortunate that the atmosphere here or something, I don't know. As far as I can tell, well, I don't know. I don't know why the synthetics didn't make it, but no androids lasted here as long as I'd expect them to in somewhere else.
They broke down, you're saying.
We would find them inactive and it happened. I guess maybe it was a cosmic ray storm.
We certainly do not want to interfere in your private lives.
Thank you. So if you're ready, the Bellerophon is awaiting your return, I'm sure. We'd like to get life back to normal here. And your persistent intrusion is causing people a lot of anxiety.
I was not aware that we've done anything but assist.
We are company employees just like you are. We're following company orders. Our job, we're not here to be difficult.
Yeah, well, the company thinks they own everybody, but when you agree to come out to a place like this, part of the bargain is a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of independence. And it's not just one company, there's things within the company. There's people within the company that they want things too. And he leans in. I assume you guys came sort of as a little phalanx toward Raley once 73 started moving.
Dr. Singh is just slightly kind of obscured by Charlie. He's kind of hung.
He leans in to 73 and says, "You should leave. He's watching." And then he sort of stands back and says, "So if you guys are done poking your noses around, feel free. Thanks for stopping by."
We'll get out of your hair. And I turn to the others and I don't know, I give you guys sort of the signal that I have something to talk to you about, but you need to do it in private.
And likewise, Charlie sort of, looks around at the assembled villager colonists and says, we can stand down, we're good. And they sort of break off into groups of 5 and 6 and move in different directions.
I will transmit the information directly to Iris so that she understands. But as soon as we're alone and, if we're being observed, Goat, I'll have Goat. Can I see your pad for a moment?
Sure.
And I will quickly type the message onto it, keeping it blocked so that if there are cameras, they can't see what I wrote. They just warned us that we are being observed and that we may be in danger from not them, but from whoever is observing us. Dr. D, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of just read it, nod.
Pass it around.
Yeah, and I'm like, it looks like it looks like we got a full house here, don't we? Don't we, 73?
Yeah.
Well, the medical records seem to at least be in order, but what's Dr. Singh's actually typing is these people might be under duress.
They might be in danger themselves. They seem a little frightened.
Yeah. Yeah, let's I kind of say out to the my folks, let's kind of gather up and we'll finish up our report and play our final hand.
Let's head back to the ship to arm ourselves. I think now we need to rescue these poor people from whatever's going on.
Are we heading back to the shuttle or the ship?
The shuttle.
Do we have weapons? I mean, I have a foam gun, so if you need me to stick someone to the floor or put up a painting.
We might.
To be fair, Dr. Tath, a foam gun to the face is pretty bad news for the recipient.
Okay, so it's like a super soaker of hot glue. I got it.
A bunch of cities carrying guns around isn't my favorite thing. So,
well, I'm saying that we should do the work. We should go see this Dr. D, but we should be armed.
Yeah, I agree.
And realize
we should go, but I'm not sure you should be on.
As a scientist and doing research and development, if he has made any progress, I'm sure the company would be very grateful to receive word of it. So I would willing to go along, if nothing else, to perhaps see that his work is returned to the company.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we have to look at the contract, see if we get a bonus.
So, uh, given what, well, so your plan currently is to go back to the shuttle to retrieve the emergency armaments that are a natural component of traveling to potentially hostile lands or alien places, and then just come right back. Was that what's being fielded?
That's sort of what I was proposing. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
let's
everybody
do that.
agreed.
Is there any way, do you think, that we could kind of get all the colonists gathered out of our way in a place, and maybe that's where the foam gun comes in, that we could maybe
Hmm.
kind of constrain them somewhere out of the way, out of harm's reach for the time being, and then we could kind of move above. They may feel that they are forced to stand up to us for fear of reprisal, or
Yeah, well, I don't think they're on his side. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten that whispered communication. So I mean, I say we just go confront him.
I mean,
I mean,
Doctor, you're most valuable. You should probably hang back, but we could use your
Suppose.
knowledge.
Thank you. I do suspect that perhaps Dr. Teth should come along too. If we do happen to come along the children and they are in a poor state, we may be needed to render assistance.
not a physician, but yeah, sure. I can be there to be a little bit knowledgeable of some of these medical
Have
issues.
you, as a specialist have you picked up on any specific cultish or religious tendencies here?
Warden.
Um, as a specialist, this is one. So you've been considering the layout of this underground village. You suspect that one of the larger Quonset huts is a communal space that may or may not have faith components, but it is such that they don't feel like again, regarding the external decorations, there isn't, the human tendency to build something tall to look at and worship.
Sure.
They don't have that. They don't even have a thing over the door. Nobody's ever new to town. So
How does that fare with other colonies we've been with?
some colonies are self-segregating because of faith,
Sure.
and then you see a lot of indications of it. This looks like these people it really does, it's a mining town in the American context. These are a bunch of people who wanted to get out or needed to get out and ended up together. And if any kind of, to be blunt about it, if any kind of cult or faith developed here that took root, you'd expect to see a symbol, maybe a lot of symbols, or like people would start. I mean, again, the people's normal dress is something built on overalls. It doesn't feel like there's any, like they don't have different colors.
Well, it's a cult of subtlety.
It would be,
There's our
yeah,
spot.
which are, famously unpopular. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, you don't join a cult to mix in.
Almost as rare as the cult of solitude.
Yes. Oh, that's increasingly common in our spacefaring days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like a pretty functional place, except for the weird lacunae where the children, where are the androids. Like other than that, again, could be tidier, but they're feeding themselves. Like there isn't any. You're not seeing vermin, and you're not seeing, like, people don't greet each other secretively. I mean, again, it's only not even a couple hundred people. How much?
Hypothesis based on the current knowledge that we have based on human interactions in the past, is it possible that Dr. D got rid of the synths because they would interfere in his plan, and that he is keeping their children hostage so that they will
Fall in place.
follow through with his plan?
What is the plan?
Well, we don't know that, but it might simply be, well, for humans, it might simply be to rule it over the colony. People are power hungry. Did we ever establish what kind of doctor Dr. D is?
Biomedical research.
Biomedical. Could he be experimenting on them?
Maybe.
This is an odd placement for him, according to his previous assignments.
But if he were experimenting on the children, I would think that the colonists would rise up and stop him, because it would be their children. So maybe he's just holding them hostage to keep them doing. Have we seen them doing anything unusual other than what everybody expects them to be doing, mining or growing food?
It's the lack of conspicuous behavior that is conspicuous. That's my opinion.
The cruelest thing in the universe is perhaps that living things don't necessarily see the end of their ordained lifespan. Children die, people die before their time, things happen. It could be that there is something here that is causing the children to be sick, and maybe it's less of a hostage taking and more that they are reliant on him to save their children, or to perhaps research something to cure them. Or
it didn't seem like they were trying to cover up what he's doing. They wanted us to stick our noses in.
And they have a cadre of doctors here, medical professionals. Why would they need a biomedical engineer to work with their children?
Also, maybe something was found here on the planet that he finds interesting, unique, wants to study it.
Say he doesn't see anyone.
I brought up the topic of dating, of population increase to one of the colonists, and it was such a negative reaction. She didn't, burst out into a tirade against me, but it was as if I had hit upon a taboo subject, and she literally left the room.
Your behavior was a bit off-putting, Dr. Teth.
I've been known for being direct, but we only have so much time here.
Did we find any record after children were born of any of them reaching a significant birthday? Or, I mean,
there were no records, for example, of
the fourth grade class.
There are no records of their education. I mean, maybe that's a smaller database that isn't connected, because grades aren't necessarily a matter of the public record in that way. Maybe, or maybe there's something being elided.
What about vaccinations for the kids? That would follow at certain different points of their childhoods.
There were records of the standard battery of first year vaccinations. And there isn't I don't know when the last new vaccination for the general pop came down here, because you guys are the only people they ever see. The only disease vector in the universe is you showing up, and you guys all get shot full of everything before you do these jumps, right?
Hyper sterilized, yes.
Yeah, you've been scrubbed down to the bone.
Well, I think we should act.
Yeah, I agree. But I tell you, the more we've talked, the more nervous I've become, and I want to go back to the shuttle. I want to get armaments, and then go have a conversation with this Dr. D.
Definitely.
Let's do it.
As you guys head toward the docking, etc. chambers, you feel eyes on you. Like there's like that inhalation before the sigh of relief. You're in formation. All of you are moving in the same direction. It's toward the goodbye. And in fact, Simon is somewhere nearby who was at the dock, and he says, thank you guys for everything. Um, you know, Madeline is busy, but she sends her well wishes. Have a good launch. Enjoy your next jump.
Yeah, just make sure, check in a little bit more. It'll keep you out
Yeah,
of trouble.
I think that's been straightened out
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Bon voyage.
Yeah.
And you guys board shuttle C, and
Arm ourselves.
yeah, you can choose a rent. Assume that like the shuttle expects to occasionally land in a couple of different kinds of biospheres that have natural enemies in them. So like light hand
And
weapon.
phasers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a hazard suit I can
More glue for the
add.
foam gun.
Yeah. So like revolver, combat shotgun, things like that.
Yeah, you're not in space. So you don't have to worry about blasting a hole in your, even if you shot a hole in the quartz ceiling, it wouldn't like evac, so you can all choose a useful weapon. You want any recommendations from the text? You guys can figure it out.
I'll take something small and unobtrusive. And
Yeah.
I'm not a fighter.
Likewise. So space
Is there anything like a truth serum or something like that, Doc, that
Yeah, we might be able to cook something up, especially if we get into their labs.
tie him up and find out what's what?
Something tells me if we get through the doors, we're going to see a lot of signs with our own eyes of what's going on rather than needing to extract from him, but you never know.
Yeah, I would expect the worst. Let's just expect the worst.
Charlie, do we have a signal jammer? If they're watching us with digital cameras, we
Can you guys
might be
do
able
that?
to.
Can you be a
What?
walking signal jammer?
I don't know
No,
that
we don't.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd recommend that for them either. I wouldn't want to interfere with my own processing. Just
Okay.
possible.
No, but military might have something like that. We're shielded.
Can't imagine we'd have anything like that on a cargo vessel.
Yeah,
Probably not.
the shuttle just has sort of
It's
blunt
not military.
instrument stuff in the same way that you always have an axe on a vessel of certain size, just because you might have to chop something, but they didn't. It's not a paramilitary shuttle. It's a
Right.
just
Okay.
transport.
Yeah, Dr. Taff, I remember one of your specialties being chemistry. Is there anything we could put into their airstream that might render the colonists inert, not hurt them, but knock them out for a while? And
That's a little tricky.
Even if you had the compounds you needed, which you wouldn't have on the shuttle again,
yeah,
you'd need to figure out where the central air came from.
and the dosage,
that's-
proper dosage, and all that stuff.
And dosages are
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a reason anesthesiology is a whole medical field. Also,
I'm-
you're not going to have.
I would like to
even-
see that we minimize colony deaths. I mean, these people are employees, and I do think it's not in their interest to stand in our way, but they may end up doing so.
Being forced to.
anything that can knock you out quickly is going to be a danger here, because how you fall can be very bad.
Right.
Also, there's not going to be equal dispersion of whatever it is you're
While we're
dispersing.
while we're in the shuttle, can we also make a transmission back up to the ship? To telling them that we suspect that there is some funny business going on here and that we are going to demand to see Dr. D. He may be holding their children hostage.
You can send a message to that effect, and you can send it so that it is reasonably safely encoded against the colony. You guys have intership protocol stuff that you can invoke.
I do have one idea. This could be a oh shit type of use, because it wouldn't affect the androids. Rather than knock people out as an unconscious, it is extraordinarily easy to make a chemical that will just incapacitate you from its horrific odor. So it would make everybody in the colony keel over and likely vomit. That could be a somewhat of a biohazard situation, but it's extremely effective.
Would do that to you too, though, wouldn't it?
That would be handing the mission over to the androids completely.
I have a hazard suit with me.
But you don't have a chemistry lab on the shuttle, right?
That we don't.
It's actually pretty easy to make, but sure.
I mean, you humans just naturally make a lot of
Emissions.
sulfur-based emissions that stink. No, I think just if we're armed, then if I mean, people might not even shoot, you know. We can't go in guns blazing. We don't know that there's that kind of danger. But
at this point, you've been talking long enough that you get the little beacon shows up on the shuttle, and they're like, we've released everything. You know, you're good to go.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. We were doing some last minute checks. We got a hatch that's giving us some trouble. We're working on it.
Roger. Thanks again. Bon voyage.
Yep. Have a good one.
You know, maybe we could lure Simon on board our shuttle, and like it wouldn't be a bad idea too. Someone mentioned we talked about interrogation before, but if we could talk to him out of earshot of whatever's monitoring them.
He might be on the bad guy's side. Who knows? I say we just go. I mean, I don't say we go. I say we have our guns. Let's just march towards where.
Yeah, I
answer
think
their questions.
Do we know where we're going? Where Dr. D is?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you were told which of the hatches was his.
Oh.
You were a little pushy about it, so you know.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
I'm with Charlie. Let's go.
I'll be behind Charlie and Goat. My intention to protect Goat because he's my buddy.
All right, we don't need like sequence of participants, because all that happens when you come back down through the hatch and the open dock is that Simon, who's just outside, turns and looks at you with astonishment, and then he sort of follows you, and he's like saying, "What? I thought you guys would really. I gave the all clear. You can't go down there.
We need to find out."
Yeah, we're going, Charlie.
Like, for God's sake, you can't. And he's like,
tell us what you're going to tell us.
I can't.
We have authorization to search.
He's sort of, the overwhelm. I mean, Charlie was scary from the get-go, and now that all of you guys are carrying something, and clearly, he knew that you were given, a warning. Now he's like, just like the different kinds of it's all I can't stop the bad news or warring inside him. And so he's like sort of stumbling along next to you, but he's a little incoherent. And when you get to that larger arch and in the village, there's a frozen silence for a moment, and then there's a bunch of screams, and what you see is adults sort of crouched over, and some of them crying out, and some of them sort of pushing children, and you see children running away into the alleys between the Quonset huts. Some of the kids, especially the younger ones, look back or are slower, and none of them have only two eyes. Some of them have three fairly reasonably spaced eyes. Some of them have open, staring eyes all over their faces.
Hiding the children from us.
And they're rushing back. They're like disappearing again in between the huts. And there's this, the stone room is not very resonant. It's kind of craggy, but the overall wail kind of hangs before it dissipates. And people, some people turn toward you with like postures of anger, and some people sort of collapse on the floor in despair. It's not pretty. Some of the kids had a lot of eyes.
They were watching us.
Does that necessitate a fear or sanity?
Nobody's rolled a damn thing, and nobody's taken stress. Yeah, you all get a stress point for that.
Okay.
Wondering.
Is Simon still with us?
Simon followed you into the Great Hall, but he's also just sort of like,
Simon, you got to talk to us now, because there's a chance this can still go okay. If nothing bad is happening here, maybe we take a few samples back. It takes the company a couple years to go through it and find it. But are you in danger? Are you under duress? Are you just trying to hide that from us?
He sees you. He's watching you. There are children. There still are children.
Yeah.
No, we get them.
We'd like them to continue to be.
We don't have any problem with the children.
Who is Dr. Who is he? Dr. D?
Can read lips.
Has he done this to you?
The company sent him too. It's there's Go and see for yourself. See where it gets you. Maybe we'll be able to stay here with our children if the company doesn't find out. And if you go to visit Dr. D, the company might not find out for a while. One of us can fly the shuttle back without you. He has eyes everywhere. He doesn't see anyone.
Odd.
He doesn't see anyone. He has eyes everywhere.
Have I heard of any mythology that follows that kind of theme?
The Greek mythology of the gods with 1,000 eyes.
Sure.
Well, the kids probably have 1,000 eyes between them.
Is he a synthetic?
I don't think so. No, he would be. They could repair him if he were synthetic.
I see.
You mean he can see through everyone's eyes? Or he has cameras everywhere?
Do you, shh. And he Quiet! He yells out to this because there are some people who are still sort of wailing and if you listen very closely, there's a little skittering sound, just sort of ambient.
Insects. Mice.
Eyes. All his other eyes. Let's see.
Charlie's on alert.
Charlie's on alert. There aren't observation rolls in this, but everyone can either roll combat or intelligence to see if they can locate combat or intellect and any applicable skill that you might think will help to locate motion or things that are trying to be unseen.
11.
So when you say
Wow.
we can make a roll with combat, is
Yes.
that we roll percentile and then we add that number?
You add
Try to
your
get
Under. You're rolling under.
Oh,
You're
I'm trying to
rolling-
roll
Call of
under.
Cthulhu.
under
If
your
you have
combat,
combat, you add 10.
and then
Or
and
no,
then
no, sorry. Applicable
and then
skills. Sorry.
any trained skills that you have on top of your base
Okay.
combat.
So if my combat's 49 and I have military training of 10, which could help me identify, I have to roll under a 59.
Exactly. And doubles
Thank
are
you.
good.
Here's a far out question. Would zoology help?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, thank you. That'll give me a 61 to... And I got a 69, so I failed, unfortunately.
Passed.
Charlie?
I succeeded.
Okay. So the two successes,
I got 100.
you got 000?
Uh-huh.
That's actually zero in Mothership.
That's
Right,
excellent.
right.
That
That's
is the
best roll.
best of all possible rolls. So
Yeah.
the two successes, great. I mean, the two failures, great. The two successes take 1 stress. The 11 and the 0 are going to take a stress and then make a panic check. So that's add 1 to your stress number and then roll a d20. And you just have to supersede the d20, which since you haven't had any stress yet, strangely.
With the one just now.
Do
Okay.
androids panic?
Androids have what is the special rule?
Each class has their own trauma response. So check it on your character. For the scientists is sanity saves. And I think for the Marines, I seem to remember it's fear saves.
Yeah, Marines is whenever you panic, every close friendly player must make a fear save.
Okay.
Thank God I don't even have to roll.
I'm sorry, David. Are we trying to roll over our stress?
Yes,
On the
you are.
D20?
You're hoping, yeah.
I rolled under my stress. I rolled a 3.
Oh, good. Panic chart. Whee!
Pull your circuits together.
Fine. You become jumpy, which is great because you've been so level-headed so far.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to gain a stress for being jumpy, and everybody else gets 2 stress because you're jumpy. When the
Nice.
Coleman collected iris freaks out, everyone's like, "Oh shit!" So the failures, you're like, "God damn it! It sounded like gravel falling off something." Maybe the successes, you basically just see legs, large, spidery, pointy legs disappearing around girders, struts, ridges of rock. 11 and 0, you see a few of them. And what they are is basically tarantula plus size masses of eyes with a little nasty raisiny brown hide brain, like a leathery brain sac behind a bunch of eyes, and a number of jointed and very pointy feet that go as soon as you look in their direction.
They're just popping out everywhere.
The area is rich with them, enough to make Iris start to go.
Well, I recommend we get the hell out of here.
Or start stomping.
Did anyone bring raid with them?
No.
Raid
I wish I had my combat
21,
shotgun
29.
instead of my rifle.
You can do it with the butt end of your rifle. Just, but these things are skittering away or hiding.
They seem to avoid, if you'll forgive it, eye contact. As soon as you see them, they try to be unseen. But there are enough of them that there's an ambient sound.
Is this? I turn to. Is it Charlie? Yeah. I say to Charlie, is this what he's become? Some sort of million spiders?
Oh, which Charlie? Charlie from the colony or
Charlie
Yeah,
Freeze?
sorry.
Well,
I'm
who's
sorry.
talking to us right now?
My apologies for name redundancy. It was Simon that followed you down the way.
Okay,
The
and
fellow
Simon
who
was
met
just
you.
talking to us. Yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
it to Simon
Yeah.
then.
No, it's not. He's still in there. He's still doing things. He's still making things. But they'll take our children from us. They sent him, someone at the company sent him here because nobody cares about this place. And they wanted him to do research where no one mattered. The company man, his name is Vinton or Vincent. His daughter needs new eyes, and Dee was working on technology, but the company doesn't permit nanobio anymore after the event, so they sent him here to do it where it didn't matter. And he's grown all of them, and then it happened to all of our children. And if the company finds out about our children, they're not allowed to exist. You see?
I think within our mission parameters, the company doesn't necessarily need to know that. I do think that Dr. D well, I better watch what I say, but I think we should deal with that.
I don't think they can hear you, but they can see you, and
they can read lips.
Watching. They're always watching.
Listen, if you wanted us to, we could help you exterminate them. But if we exterminate them and the company finds out, they'll come and take your children. So we don't want that to happen. Do we have any other choice but to just leave them alone? But this doctor is experimenting on you and your children. I'm sure you want that to stop, right?
It's hard to leave here. The contracts are unforgiving. It would be nice if we could have children here and they only had 2 eyes.
Yeah, obviously the Dr. D is causing problems. I think we need to go in and take care of this problem. Colony's not functioning.
The problem is that they're kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't. If the company sent Dr. D to do this, or somebody in the company did it, one way or the other, if we do anything, then the company will find out about the children. And
Don't forget the company
They
hasn't
haven't-
been hearing from him.
They
So if he's
haven't found out.
Yeah,
Yeah, they haven't found out so far.
yeah.
they will if the doctor who has been
Or-
commissioned by them to do this.
Perhaps we eliminate the doctor and write a script that fakes a report at his normal intervals that just reports no significant findings to be
Uh.
continued on in perpetuity.
What
You
happened
were
to the androids?
I, as far as we could, he's not, the company protocol precludes nanobiotech.
right.
So
Okay.
the fellow who sent him gave him a tool to eliminate them because the androids would have reported it. And we didn't figure that out for years. We thought, as Charlie said, we thought it was a solar
Not together.
storm or something. They just started to fail to thrive, and they were all gone. But it was because he knew that they would detect what he was up to. And it doesn't affect adults, it only affects
The children.
fetuses.
Uh,
That's where he's growing the eyes.
If we take care of Dr. D, the company will only know what we report to them. And if we
Well-
report to the company that everything's fine, then the company will think everything's fine.
until they figure out that it's not, and then there are reprisals against
where-
those people.
That's where we have been stuck for these years, but it also took years to figure out. And his security is significant, and he sees no one.
So how many? How
Pardon,
many?
but what is his security? You said he's got a lot of security.
We don't have a lot of. The company is never authorized. There's no life here to fight. They didn't want to give a colony a bunch of weapons to fight itself. So
Right.
I think, he's got good doors and some laser
Ah.
and the eyes.
And let's not
They-
forget he has a tool that can dismantle synthetics, so that might put our synthetics in danger.
What?
Can we squish these bugs?
Yeah.
They're not hard to kill, but those legs are very sharp, and they go all around.
A goat.
Yeah.
How many colonists can we fit on the Bellerophon? We could literally rescue these people
Yeah, we could. We
and
could.
their children.
We
It'd
could.
be some time before the company would find out that all the colonists are gone.
But we'd
Yeah,
have to
but-
take them somewhere.
Where are they going to go? Where are we going to take them?
Well, I mean, I don't know my star charts, but maybe there's a planet somewhere nearby where they can.
Why not simply eliminate Dr. D? He seems to be the root of the colonist problem.
If you kill Dr. D, then the person who hired Dr. D is eventually going to come and want to know what happened to Dr. D.
Not if Dr. D is continuously reporting at regular intervals.
Yeah, I don't think we'll publicize that we kill him. I think we'll.
Well, you'll delay, but eventually
Well, in the
somebody
meantime,
will say,
Well, in the meantime, that gives colonists the opportunity to leave.
yeah, and don't forget, this only is a thing as long as this Vincent or Vinton still needs the eyes. For all we know, his daughter's eye surgery happened 2 years ago, and he's moved on past
He
it
just
and forgot about
doesn't
Dr.
even,
D.
yeah.
It doesn't even need it.
I think Dr. D is operating beyond regular company parameters in his own self-interest. And that may be where we have a leg to stand on in terms of our own ethical standpoint on it.
Well, I'm not a decision maker, so I will go with what we want to do.
Goat is in charge of the mission, and you. So the two of you
Well, you have my recommendations. I think we have to think it all the way through. I'm in favor of somehow rescuing them off of this rock and taking them to some other rock where they can
Without the
independently.
tools to form a habitat and terraform, they have what they need here.
No,
How would we move a colony, even a small colony like this?
Well,
Yeah,
an
it's-
alternative then would be to find out if this fellow who's sent Dr. D here is actually working within company parameters, or if he's doing something illegal using company funds and an embezzlement sort of thing.
yeah.
The only reason we don't want this to come to public light is because we don't want to expose the children themselves. Their mutations are enough punishment. Let them live out their lives, and let's make dealing with Dr. D a separate matter.
Colonists did a pretty good job of keeping them hidden from us.
They did.
They could
I
probably
fear
keep
that
them hidden.
moving them to a new site increases the chances of their exposure, though.
Well,
Yeah,
it's not-
because if
not
we
easily
put
feasible.
170 people on a ship
Plus their
and
children.
transport them somewhere, that's going to be noticed.
We also decrease their chances of survival. They have an ecosystem here. They have
Yeah.
hydroponic system. Like they have methods to
Self-sustaining.
survive here.
Yeah, there's a better chance of them staying here.
No,
Damn company.
from the company's perspective, even if you took the shuttle back and forth to Bellerophon, that's going to be logged. And then a bunch of people on the Bellerophon, that's going to be logged. And then unless you hit all the kids in a container, that's going to freak people out, let alone be logged. No. If they're here, there's a chance they can be forgotten about.
Yeah.
Well, then I
And-
think that Iris's idea might be the best then, that we eliminate the doctor, but we put in some automated system that fools the and hopefully this Vindies or whatever his name is won't come to check on the progress himself.
Well, at that point, we have to let the colonists handle that themselves. Maybe we leave them with some weapons to deal with it. And walk
You
away.
could fake a biological disaster so that and warn anybody not to come here.
Yeah, say that the colony was lost, and they really are on their own after that.
Or
but-
they're infected, by something.
No.
I'd almost be concerned that that would invite visitors more than not.
Yes,
Yeah.
true.
I feel like that. Take care of D, send out a report, all is well. We teach the colonists how to send a report back to this Fenton fella. And we leave him alone.
Yeah, there was a lab accident and Dr. D died, and everybody else is fine, and we fixed their communication issue, and
Yeah, it's great.
keep it simple. That's what my Sarge always told me.
I agree.
Perhaps when we get back to corporate space, we can see if we can look up this Mr. Vincent and shed
And
some
see
light
if
on
he's if he
Hmm.
turns out to be illegal. And as far as visitors being curious and coming here, what if the company's not going to waste money on a lost planet, but if somebody might come here and figure out how to cure these poor people, these children.
They have to wonder if
That's-
there's things I could do to help them. If not, I don't know about cure. It might take several surgeries to do that, but
Well, it might be, as long as their future children aren't born, there must be
Yeah.
something
within
Good
a
God.
generation, perhaps it'll die out.
If there's an airborne virus here that causes the fetus, we may have contracted it.
Well, it sounds like specifically this Dr. D's doing, as that this was his little project, but we don't know how he went about it. So maybe it is viral.
I believe
But-
Simon mentioned something about manipulations of the fetuses, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's
Dr. D's got to go. We got to
let's do a quick doctor drop-in appointment here, and
Right. So, there are clusters of colonists watching you and muttering considerable sense of anxiety in general. You know that Dr. D's laboratory is down tube two. Tube two opens like the others, but a dozen or so yards in, there's a couple of cameras and a red light and a heavy door. There's probably a button if you want to press a button.
Can we do anything about those cameras?
He already knows we're here.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Let's do it.
Hit the button.
Charlie's leading the way.
Charlie, are you listening to Dr. Dillon and hitting the button?
Yep. Pressing the button. Let's go.
Go away. You have no business here.
Pizza delivery.
Yeah, we
Sure.
we do have business.
I don't see anyone. This is above your pay grade. Fuck off my planet.
This is not your planet. This planet belongs to the company. Unfortunately,
Company
So-
sent us.
I'm
We have
I'm a company man. I'll go above your heads. You'll regret this.
I already do regret this. Open the door.
yeah, we already do. So please just open the door. All will be well. 73. Do you have a hand welder?
I do, and I'll cut
Okay.
the hinges.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, zip, zup, vunk, clank. It's bad smell. There's an oceanic sound of scuttling.
Oh. Ooh.
And it's very badly lit. Dr. D is not company protocoling back here in his private labs. It's even, well, David Finchered up a little bit. There's probably something going there's some open doorways. No one comes back here to clean. So you're entering the dungeon, for
Yeah.
better or worse, and it's has to function as a clean enough space in certain areas to do careful work, but everything else is just wrong, and he's clearly living with these things. The outgrowth, one of the unintended outgrowths of his research is that you're in a lair of a swarm
Spiders.
of little sharp-legged eyeball things that avoid light. They avoid eye contact.
Can I assume that either my battle armor or my rifle has some source of light on them?
Your rifle probably has a very narrow directed light, and
Okay.
yeah, you can light up your suit. I think
Yeah.
Dr. Singh talked about a hazmat suit earlier.
Yeah.
He probably strapped some light source on.
I have a headlamp with me.
There's a headlamp.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Got a flashlight.
73 comes with a tongue light.
Or a forehead light that pops out.
The foam gun shoots glow in the dark film.
Oh yeah.
Highly.
That sounds extremely inutile. But I will say, when you're looking at a bunch of skittering little things,
The foam
clacking
gun.
them over is not a bad deal.
Yeah, Doc.
You don't have to aim. So, room quiet, weird drip. Room on the right. We're at 2 hours and 20. There's a cleanish area around some pretty high-tech lab equipment. With regard to your earlier conversation about whether or not the company man who authorized this is safe, there's equipment in here that is illegal from every perspective. Company policy and what's left of government agree that the problem with nanotechnology is that very small things are easily perturbed. And then when you multiply that by billions, you get unintended consequences. This is an illegal lab. This is an illegitimate use of company property. So his threats of reprisal, it depends on how things go. He has friends in high places, but none of this stuff should exist.
Can I just see if they turned off the lights and just flip them on?
I love it.
Yeah. What you get is you get a couple of those like sharp, wet sparks. Like he doesn't. They live in the dark. At the end of the hallway, there's another heavy door, but you don't need to cut it because it was behind his security, which was just about the colony. You could just pull it open, and then come the reign of the dancing eyes. There are so many of them, and you can even see in where you have headlamps and things that the steel walls have these tiny little scritches in them because the chitinous legs of these things are hard and sharp. And so they pour out. So let's do an expedient combat. They're easy to squish. You can glue them down. If they get to your skin, they will puncture it.
Did you want us to do a panic check before we start?
Let's do a panic check. Thank you very much, Dr. Singh.
So D20 against stress?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if, oh my God, I keep failing this stress roll and my stress is
I'm
so
sorry,
low.
Yeah, I failed mine.
I just barely made it. My stress
Do
is
we want to
6
go
and I
up-
rolled a 7.
Above or below?
Above.
You want to get above. If you get below, then you
I
get a.
went below by 1.
Okay. The single fault I will say regarding the Mothership Player Survival Guide is that the panic should be on the fold, and it's 1 page off. Like they just seem silly. Okay. 73, what did you roll?
I rolled a 5 out of 6. So,
You
5
have
under
become a coward.
oh wait, you wanted me to roll a 1d20 for?
The 1d20 that you roll is also what happens as a result.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
that's the
5.
kind of minimalism.
Okay.
For sure.
So 5 makes you a coward. You have a new condition. You must
Greatest.
make a fear check in order to engage in violence. So right now you're just in panic mode, nothing happens. If you want to
Okay.
try to attack them, you're going to have to succeed at a fear check next round. We'll call them rounds.
Okay.
Goat, you succeeded?
Yes.
Iris failed again. What's your number?
4.
So now you're not merely jumpy, but also overwhelmed. So for the next 10, I'm sorry, roll a 1d10, please.
6.
6. So for the next 6 minutes, you're at a disadvantage for all rolls.
Okay.
Which means a disadvantage is you roll anything twice and take the lesser.
Mhm.
Also, your minimum stress has increased by 1.
Which means all of ours have.
Your nervous system is damaged.
Yeah.
Right, and because you panicked, everybody else takes some stress. Right, too,
That-
right?
Yeah,
That
except for the fact that Thom also panicked. So
Oh,
I'm not
Willikers.
seeing that. I'm seeing that androids' fear saves made by close friendly players are at disadvantage. I don't see where people are gaining stress because
Oh.
I'm panicking.
oh, they
I'm
might have
reading
changed
that
that between zero
There-
edition and first
There
edition.
are some changes in those. I guess.
Oh, you're the warden. Your call.
Right. So we'll stick with the rule that we started with, even if it might be out of date. And also, you guys had so little stress until the end. might as well start to get anxious now that you're being swarmed by eyeball monsters.
Yeah.
So we get
Doctor,
2 from 73 and 2 from Iris?
yes,
Okay.
but they're not retroactive, so you don't have to
Okay.
bet
That's
on your
what-
Oh,
previous panic.
does mine increase because of 73's increase? And does his increase because of mine? Like, are
That's
we
not-
also increasing each other's?
I think
they just going to do this?
yeah, no, that would be a perfect recursion. You'd both just blow up. No, it's only humans that get worried when
Okay.
androids panic.
Got it.
So Dr. Singh, you also failed?
I had the nerve to pass after suggesting we all take panic attacks.
Oh, good. Fair. Teacher, everybody's got to have a teacher's pet. And Charlie and Tef, you're all right?
No, I failed with a 4.
Okay, so you're also overwhelmed? So
Yeah,
you
makes
also have
perfect
to
sense.
Roll a 1d10.
Okay, rolling a 1d10. I think this might be bad. 10.
Yeah, that's a shame. So you're rolling with a disadvantage for the next 10 minutes, which
Okay.
means again you roll twice for your foam
Sure.
gun. And you also your minimum stress goes up by 1. So
Oh
you're
dear.
permanently altered by the spilling out of these. And some of the eyeballs are blue and some of them are brown. Some of them are big and round. Some of them are squinky with big lids. They're masked like soap bubbles on these multi-jointed, sharp ticky-tack legs with little ugly brain sacs. If you see, instead of like the abdomen of a spider, that's how smart they are.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, not good. I think Charlie, you were in the lead.
Yeah, and I didn't panic. I'm gonna grab Dr. Teth's foam gun since he seems to be having a hard time, and spray this place down.
Right. Taft, do you resist that grabbing?
No,
No.
not at all.
All right. Why don't you, Charlie, roll a combat to determine what percentage of the immediate area you can cover before they slop through?
Does this count as a firearm?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So I got a 23, and my combat plus my firearms is 64.
Fantastic. 22 would have been better. What can you do? So you basically, not only do you seize up like a good 40% of the opening, but some of the ones that are pushing through are falling down and then going up as they're stuck to the mass or each other. And you're wearing body armor, so the ones that are skittering over your boots and shoulder that get around you don't matter at all. You're hunky dory.
I'm
Good start.
dancing. I'm dancing at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Who's behind you? Or did you have more, Charlie?
No, I was just gonna say, y'all stay away from these things. I'll keep gluing it.
I'm like, how much goof is in a foam gun? These questions.
I was
Wow,
wondering
figured
that
out.
myself. I did say I was getting extra glue for the foam gun.
Yeah, it was your weapon of choice. So he might have to rummage through your gear a little bit. Who's behind Charlie? I'm guessing Ghost.
Is there a specific order you're going?
Well, because it's an open door, it's not a simultaneous sort of
Yeah,
experience.
I was certainly right up in the front when we went through.
Okay. And how are you responding to these things?
Well, you said to do a fear check on this board. It closed again. So what my that's a regular pass. I think I am jumping up and down and squishing. If I I kind of imagine at some point, if there was it's silly, a hat rack inside the room, or a pole with a big base on it, I'll just start smashing everything that I can find on the floor.
Yeah, and it's not a Victorian foyer, unfortunately. I
No.
don't think there's anything. Perhaps further on, there'll be something that you can haft. I don't even imagine that they have fire extinguishers because steel and
If
stone don't
right,
light very easily.
if they have trash cans, I can jam my foot into a trash can and then use the trash can. Whatever, even just with my bare feet, I'm doing a dance on top of anything that comes near me.
Yeah. So you're smushing, and I assume, and you had a light source of some kind?
Yeah,
So you're smushing and moving forward, basically.
yeah.
Okay. Um,
When I shine the light on them, do they back away?
they
Good question.
they don't love light, but they don't fear it. They don't like
Okay.
being seeing or being seen. They don't like being seen.
Okay.
They have an aversion to eye contact, at least with things like us. They,
Yeah.
they're inherently avoidant because they're squishy.
All right.
In terms of you have a low combat skill, right?
I have 12.
Yeah. So you're getting you're going to sustain damage to your exoderm,
Okay, probably my legs.
and they're again because they're a 360 critter, like they go
Right.
up walls and fall down, so they're getting on you. You can probably determine how much you want to respond to the individual pain, but their pointy little legs are not likely to get to anything that's important in you. They're going to
Yeah,
basically sort of grab your synthetic flesh, and give it a little,
right.
and they
And
might fall off of you out of disinterest because you don't taste good.
I probably don't taste. I probably don't feel pain the same way that a person does.
I
It's
think you
probably
could
something I can turn it off.
exactly.
Just,
You can dampen that when there's no useful information to be gathered.
right.
All right, so behind Charlie and 73, who's
Uh,
pressing in?
I can be there. I can be back there.
And what are you employing against this horde?
I have a shotgun.
All right.
Nice.
So you'll want to clear a little way verbally
Yeah.
and tell everyone to mind their hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just gonna point and shoot.
Mhm.
Probably hit something just by accident.
Yeah, you're gonna scatter uh and cause to be fluid a number of them. They're kind of they're so yeah, Charlie's foaming, somebody's stomping, you step in between, look around for movement, and roll appropriate combat skill. I guess that's a firearm, so you get the plus for that.
Okay. Yes, that is a success.
So there's a bright light, a terrible roar, an ugly squelching sound, and a smell that is a little bit cordite and a little bit what's in an eyeball, but sour. And there's also, well, probably only Charlie's going to get this because he had dampening ear protection. After that ricocheting sound, there's a little bit of a cessation of skittering. Like these things probably don't have much in the way of oral faculty, but they felt that wave and are splashed by the ichor of their siblings, and they're reconsidering this assault. to some extent. There's going to be some of these things that have enough of little raisin brain to sit back.
Is it possible I could scoop some up in my sample collection kit?
If you want to take a moment when there's a possibility of a chitinous eyeball thing running up your arm, sure.
Yeah,
Cut one out of the
That's
glue.
so terrible.
Cut one out of the glue.
Yeah, I guess we got them out. I'll worry about that after maybe.
What did you pick up, Dr. Singh, for combat?
Oh, I have a tranquilizer gun.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's going to help much here. So
yeah. I don't think they have enough of a nervous system, and I don't imagine your aim is going to do anything. Are you going to try to move in behind the shotgun, or are you going to keep back?
I think I'll move in with Goat and Charlie towards kind of hovering, hiding a little bit in between them. But yeah, moving forward
Sure.
and hopefully shielding our other companions.
So Iris and Teth are both in a state of dysregulation.
Yeah, I hope I'm
You-
not just being swarmed by these things as I'm just out of it.
Uh, you are both rolling at disadvantage. What's the best, as you anticipate, the best kind of defense you can make?
Against these things,
Yeah.
Are you
I
asking-
think myself, I'm probably just panicked enough that I'm just like stomping on them rather
Mhm.
than like shooting. I have a gun, but like I don't think I'm there. So like
Yeah.
mentally. So I'm probably just like stomping on them.
Okay. Stomping and shooting. Again, as a synthetic, you're not either very attractive to them as prey,
Hmm.
or nor are they very effective, as opposed to poor Dr. Tess, who is made of
Oh yeah,
human
no,
flesh.
I'm just being a complete spaz about it. Just,
Right.
When like someone's like, dude, there's a giant spider on your back, and they just completely freak out and they're just flailing around, running around. So I'm probably stomping on them, but it's not a conscious act. It's just panic.
And they're gonna roll for damage on you then. Just because it's a swarm and you have no effective defense, they didn't do too much. Why don't you roll the 1d10?
Sure. But this is with disadvantage or just roll a 1d10?
This is just a 1d10. This is not your action, this is theirs. So you're just determining what.
One.
There you go. You got a nasty spine in you, and you slashed it against the wall, and you're both, yeah, the two of you are doing a weird tarantella.
Yes, but what's going to happen to me afterwards? How many eyes? Do I now have the eye plague?
It only works on fetuses, not on adults.
But I'm a child at heart.
So as we are approaching 3 hours,
Let's wrap it.
uh, between the shotgun, the foam, things begin to get under control, and you're walking over you can hear awful noises through some of the foam that's on the wall and the floors as they're still alive in there and freaking out, but can't get through it. And you've got your
That's a little sad, actually.
Yeah.
they're not it's not a happy place.
They're not mines.
They were sort of returned to their behavior in the larger chamber. Like maybe one of them will dart out and then dart back, but the remaining numerous spiders are in defensive mode. And you arrive at an open door to the personal chambers of Dr. D. He's got a little name tag, but it's just basically a survival apartment. He's got his own food reproducing device. He's got his own personal console. He's sitting in pitch blackness. And when you shine your lights on him, his face is a seared black mass from ear to ear. He doesn't see anyone with his own eyes and hasn't for some time. And he will just say, this research is vital. This research is private. This research is not official to the general company. We have a number of sub-protocols. You have no idea how many important projects people are undertaking that don't follow the regular rules that the company has to follow. You are all in terrible trouble for interfering with my research, which is for a very important man.
We were sent
What's his
by the
name?
company.
We were sent by the company. The company apparently doesn't like what you're doing.
You were sent by some subordinate nitwit that doesn't know how important this man was that sent me here to do this work. If you leave now, if you forget about what you've seen, if you are capable of shutting your stupid gobs, and he's been looking, looking. His eyes in the corners have been feeding him little bits of data. And he draws out something from the chair behind him and begins to point it in the general direction of Iris.
That makes me very scared, and I move in to
I'm going to
stop
just
him.
shoot him. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's decisive. He was not going to let you take the androids out because the androids were going to tell the company. So you shoot him. You go for central body mass. It's hard to look surprised when all of this is black and shriveled flesh, but he manages a little bit. And that is the end of our episode.
So when he dies, what happens to the little spiders?
They're not gonna just shrivel up and go away. There's gonna have to be a process.
They need Terminex.
We call our friends from outside, have them come in here and stomp. Holy crap.
Maybe somebody can come up with some something to sterilize them all, so they'll die after one generation.
So I almost no, I was gonna say, so as soon as Dr. D was mentioned, I'm like, oh, I'll just go to Dr. D. And I was like, yeah, that's probably gonna short circuit the scenario. Let's roll, go with the flow.
Yeah, I'd have found a way to deflect you after all.
Okay.
Well, the colonists would have wanted to keep him away from Dr. T, so.
Yeah.
I was waiting for a chance to drop a "you're not accepting new patients" line, but it never quite came about. That was so good.
So he was genetically fucking around. Yeah.
Yeah, he was chosen by the company man this is, his granddaughter not only was blind, but the optical center didn't work. And so he had to grow the whole thing from scratch. And he, and Dr. D himself had been blinded in an accident that damaged that stuff. So he was given this task with a big budget, but totally off the books and stashed away on this planet. And the problem was that he was using nanotech and DNA, and nanotech gets out. So every time there was a fetus developing eyeballs that got triggered, it's just in the atmosphere. And the villagers, the locals they still love their children.
Yeah. Right.
Even though they didn't like him. But he's scary as far as they're concerned. They're not well armed.
You think it's possible? Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering if when we do tell the company, if the company well, I guess maybe we weren't going to tell the company, were we?
I mean, there's going to be a long conversation, probably before you even get back to the Bellerophon, and they did give you 72 hours, so you're going to be able to.
Right.
I imagine that you're really surveilled on these company ships for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, but I also have in my mind, so if you're high up in the company and you got the pull to set up something like this, then that means you're not sloppy. And if I was that guy, what I would have done is that I would have had Dr. D set up a dead man switch where if he doesn't type in a code or something, or a computer detects that he's deceased, it's just going to auto trigger a hit on the colony. Or it
Yeah.
could be just be as simple as where they just have somebody redirect an asteroid and they don't even know why.
Again, that might not even be they care that much though. It's just
Yeah.
Right.
backwater.
It
Let 'em do
might
it.
just erase all attachments that guy had to this.
Yes, that's
Indeed.
that I see more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
paper
might be the
trail.
dead man switch for sure.
Mhm.
And also Iris is definitely Iris and 73 are going through all of his stuff and trying to fake out whatever is necessary.
They'll
to-
blame the scientist, the mad scientist who went nuts.
Mhm. I think
So,
Dr. Singh might try to get himself transferred to the colony and maybe he can help with the kids.
there might even you'll still be violating protocol because probably to undo it would also involve illegal tech. But
Yeah.
if it's there, it's in his lab. So just as far as the procedural generation, the tombs process that they have charts for: transgression, omens, manifestation, banishment, and slumber is the acronym. And I rolled 31, which is gross negligence.
Hmm.
35 for omens, which is abnormal birth. For manifestation, 75, cybernetic organism. For 60, learning its true identity in order to banishment. And for its eventual return, it hibernates deep underground. So if there were a sequel, there would be some more of those spidery fellows coming up out of little hidey holes.
And you just took those ideas and put flesh on them.
Yeah.
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 And it was I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a fun system and a good story. So
Mothership
thank
works
you
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for creating stuff. Our
Yeah.
players included Holly Buteau, Howard Freeze, Julian Arba, Steve Anderson, Mike McKinn, and myself, with David Gassaway as the warden. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Spotify, Podbean, or iTunes. Support for the show is provided by our patrons who are listed in the closing credits. If you would like to show us your appreciation, please visit our Patreon page, or you can use the Super Thanks button just below the screen. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the strange and terrifying Mothership role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.